Hello, YouTube. I'm sitting here watching The Edge, and I'm watching it because I've been doing kind of a movie review series. I did Last of the Mohicans, and I did Jeremiah Johnson already, and I'm going to do The Edge next. Uh, and I'm sitting here watching this, and it's at the point where they have walked in a circle back to their campsite because they made a compass out of a needle and it fucking didn't work. So this video is how to find north. I I laugh a lot because if you know where you are and you know how the sun works and you're outside in its daylight, it might take a few hours to watch the path of the sun as to where it goes. Give me a day or two and I'll tell you which way is north. Okay. And in general, if you're like, don't know at all. Now, if you know, hey, it's late in the day and we're in North America and the sun is over there, you know, well, the time of year dictates some of this because, like in the winter, the sun is always to the south, right? So, like, it'll be, maybe southwest, southeast, due south, depending on the exact time of day. But, like, middle of the summer, it fucking rises in the east and sets in the west. It tracks across the sky. It's pretty hard to miss. For those who aren't in the know, uh, north is up on the compass rose, right? So if you know where east and west are, you should be able to figure out which way north is. Now, if you just really didn't know, like, you're like, okay, now we know that way is west, which means that way is east, but now which way is north and south? I don't know how you wouldn't know that. Like, especially like with the sun, uh, especially in the winter, it will tell you. Trying to figure how you wouldn't be in a situation like okay, here's my thing with this is there's never a situation where I would go into where I'm like, oh, I don't know which way is up, which way is down, and how I got here. Like, I would know generally, hey, we're in Alaska or we're in Saskatchewan or wherever. I'll know generally where we are. And between that and the sun in the sky, you can tell a lot of shit. And their improvised compass bullshit, I just don't buy it. If it were me and I crashed out in the side of the Alaskan bush like that, in their situation in particular, they were flying to a cabin and they were flying, straight north from what the dude said for 20 miles. So they're somewhere between 10 and 20 miles away from the other cabin that they know that they went straight north of. So in that situation, I would start walking in the direction that I thought was south. I would take a good look around. I would look at where the sun is, and I would look at even the moss on the trees and shit like that, and other indicators. There's indicators of which way north is. You can also use the stars if it's dark out, but that's a whole different conversation. Uh, but basically, I would start walking in the direction that I figured south was, and I would watch the sun. And if the sun does what I think the sun should do for the direction I'm walking to be south, then it is south. Worst case scenario, if you figure out you're walking the wrong direction, well, you'll know you're walking the wrong direction at that point. And what the sun did between when you started walking and when you stopped walking, that's going to tell you which direction to walk in next. So let's say you were walking in the direction that you thought you were going was south, right? But you're walking along and you notice that the sun never crossed in front of you. It's just, it's going further south. Well, that means the direction that you're walking is west. Okay. That's the kind of logic you have to use here. And it's not that hard. Like, this is a thing that anyone can do. And like a lot of people would be like, ooh, this is some wizard James Bond shit. They don't know. If you don't tell them what you're doing, and they're like, which way is north? And you go and make like a Wolverine face for a minute and go, like, smell a little bit and go, that way. That way is north. When in reality, what you were doing is like looking at the sun. That's, uh, if you know where you are roughly and you know what the sun is supposed to do, then you can tell which direction is which. Like this is the way my grandfather taught me to tell which way was north. And you don't really even need a compass then because like you always know. And like I think a compass is useful. The thing that I like most about a compass is I always buy the Linstatic style compasses with a rifle sight on them, like the army style compass, like from Kaminga. It's a perfect compass. It's kind of expensive, but it has what I'm talking about. This is a sighting system to where you can shoot an azimuth at something. So basically, you line up this sight or whatever, you figure out the exact heading that you're wanting to go on the compass in so many degrees from north or south or wherever you're going. And you pick something out in the distance in the sight that lines up with your degree. And this would be like a mountain or a large tree or something like that. And you walk to that, and then you take another sighting for another bearing. And this way you always know roughly where you're going, right? That's what a compass is good for. There's, other things, but really, if you just buy like one of those little map compasses or button compasses, I think you're missing half of the shit that you really need to be able to use the compass. The cheapest compass I would buy is the Coleman Linsatic compass. It's like a plastic knockoff copy of a World War II or a U.S. Army compass. It works. It's cheap. If you're going to upgrade, get the Kaminga. The Kaminga is the current U.S. Army issue compass. It has the tritium in it, so you can use it at night. The Coleman is just phosphorescent, but the Coleman is lighter weight. So depending on what you're putting this in, if it's going in a survival kit, you might get the Coleman because it's cheaper and lighter. Other ways to tell north. There's GPS, right? But like I think that's you don't need that. Landmarks. Landmarks is a good one. Like for me, if I walked outside right now, I could see downtown Tulsa, and I know that I'm south of downtown Tulsa. So, that's a key landmark. You can see that from anywhere around here. There's other shit like that, like a big mountain or whatever. And like these are the things that if you're gonna go out someplace, look at the map before you go and look at the landscape as you're going in and remember some of these big landmarks and where they are in relation to where the compass rose is. Now, if you are not doing this shit, it becomes very difficult to find out where north is. If you walk around your whole life with your fucking head up your ass and don't know anything, like the guys in this movie, then maybe you're having to fucking, try to magnetize fucking paper clips or some shit, which is a bad idea. My first criticism of that is a paper clip even really steel? Question mark. I think they are. And if they are, how do you know which way is north and which way is south again? I think you would still have to look at the sun and shit to figure out that, right? Because it's just giving you the north-south line. And like the sun already does that, especially in Alaska. Like there are points in time in Alaska where the sun doesn't set. Yes, that's true. Most of the time in Alaska, it should be pretty far in the south, I would think. At least most of the year. So, like, if you need to walk south, I think that direction would be easy to figure out. Anyway, these are my thoughts on finding north and the movie The Edge. I'm going to do a full video on this, but I wanted to break this out on its own because I think it's a handy skill. And it's one of those things I've never heard anyone talk about in the gun community, the homesteading, survival, any of this community. This is a skill that every man, woman, and child walking the earth should have. Like, pay attention to shit. That's all it takes. I generally know where north is because I'm in a city. But whenever I'm not in a city, like, I have a compass and I'm mindful of it. Because it's always like, well, what if you didn't have the compass? What if you're these dudes, dicking around in the woods now? And maybe, like, don't obsess over it or whatever, but like I said, take note of where the sun is and where you are and do the math. It's not that difficult. The sun goes east to west. Thanks for watching.